An hour of truth for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I've got Bob Savage here with me.
Yep, I'm sheltering in studio.
Sheltering in studio. Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know if you heard, but it sounds like they're going to start reducing workforces by 50% of workforces are going to have to work from home now, it sounds like.
Is that state or that's state, right? New York
Seems
State?
to be statewide, yeah. So Cuomo just said, with the exception of essential services, all workforces are not allowed to have more than 50% of their employees working on location.
I don't think that's justified. I don't see any reason to, further hobble local business. This is starting to, without getting, I know you have a presidential candidate coming on, and you don't want to spend a lot of, maybe you do want to spend a lot of time on coronavirus, but this thing is starting to turn a corner in terms of public relations.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of all levels out when it does level out. But yeah, we could probably spend the whole episode talking about it. But today is White House Wednesday, which is the day that we come in and we talk about national politics, national issues, and bring in presidential candidates. And today we have John Monds, who is running for president in the 2020 election. Welcome to the show, John.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here. Give us a little bit of background about yourself. Looks like you've got a pretty impressive background and bio. So for the people here in New York State who are this is their first time hearing about you, why don't you help us get to know you a little bit?
Okay, a little bit of my personal story. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, till about the ninth grade. Left Michigan, finished high school down in Florida. From there, I went to Atlanta, Georgia, to Morehouse College, where I received a BA degree with a concentration in banking and finance. Worked in the investment field for a few years, and then left Georgia. Went back to Michigan for another 10 years in the airline industry. After being married and having our first two children, my wife and I decided to move to Georgia, and we've been in South Georgia for the last 20 years, and we did a role reversal, and I actually became a stay-at-home dad and the primary homeschool teacher of our four children, two of which have already graduated college. One's a senior, and then we have a 13-year-old at home. And got involved with the Libertarian Party around 2004, and since then have run for office 4 times previous to this run, and cumulatively have gotten over 1.8 million votes cast in those 4 different races.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I think one of the things that you mentioned there that people might be interested is the fact that you kind of mentioned you did a role reversal. So you were the stay-at-home parent and you homeschooled your kids, which I actually think is awesome. It's kind of funny because occasionally I'll have conversations with people, and both myself and my wife work. But they say, well, what's going to happen when you guys have kids? Is your wife going to stay at home? What are you guys going to do? And I often tell them, hey, we plan on this being a partnership. We're going to try to split up, but if she wants to work and wants me to stay at home, I would love that opportunity to spend time with my kids as they grow up. I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it was really or has been probably the hardest job I've ever had, but also the most rewarding. Um, our kids have never attended any type of government schooling or even private schooling. We were very active in a homeschool co-op, so we were able to lean on other parents with different experiences, and we kind of learned, as we went. And it's worked out very well. Our kids, we're very proud of them. They're very, very good. Uh, they've turned out to be very, very good folks.
Yeah, this is actually something that we talk about on the show. I don't know that I would say often, but it comes up time to time. And we talk about how there's this bad perception of homeschooling, that the children maybe aren't social or uneducated, which is just totally false. It's been proved wrong so many times. And I know so many people that are homeschooled. They're great socially, they're brilliant people, and I wish that more and more people would choose to homeschool. So I really like that.
Yeah, thanks. And you get that argument all the time that they won't be socialized, but we were very fortunate where we live to get them very involved in 4-H programs and also scouting. Our two oldest sons are both Eagle Scouts and have done high adventure trips with their troop. Our daughter, our third child, was very active in Girl Scouts and was a gold awardee winner, which is their highest position that you can get. And they do things like they've done archery. They interact with other kids, and plus with the flexibility of our schedule, we've been able to travel and turn everything that you do throughout the day into a learning experience. So yeah, that myth that they won't be socialized, has been proven false. And plus, a lot of things that you learn in school, especially when I was growing up, were the things you didn't want your kids to learn.
Yeah, I think that especially the people here in New York can really feel that sentiment, especially with things like Common Core. And also, I know I hear from parent after parent after parent that they feel that there are values being taught in public education that maybe don't align with their family values, or politics being taught in school, and they don't think that politics is an appropriate thing to be being taught in school. And when you homeschool your kids, you can actually instill the values that you want in your children, still share with them opposing views and let them make their decision. But there's not the social pressure from, say, a teacher and a crowd of other students that maybe disagrees with you, and you feel like you have to be stuck following whatever that social idea is.
Oh yeah, once again, I agree wholeheartedly. And people may believe that it's hard to do, and it is, but it's definitely possible if that's something they're interested in. Especially with online learning now, there's a lot of different ways that you can possibly homeschool your child and reap the benefits of that.
Awesome. Great. So you guys are listening to John Monds. He is president for this 2020 election, or presidential candidate for this 2020 election. We're going to take our first break of the hour. We'll be back in a moment.
Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and today is White House Wednesday. I actually saw at least one person posted in the comments that they are glad today is White House Wednesday because they want to hear something new, and I'm guessing they've probably heard a lot about coronavirus. It's probably on every station, everywhere, and time for something fresh, time for something different. So we have John Monds here on the phone with us. He is a Libertarian presidential candidate running for the 2020 presidential election. And John, I'd like to talk about your top 3 policies. So say you make it into the White House in 2020 election. What are the top 3 things that you want to get done once you take office?
Well, at being a libertarian and possibly being elected and pretty lonely dealing with Congress, you have to look at things, and my vision is, what can the president do unilaterally? And my top priority is ending all foreign wars, bringing all the troops home and the drones, and just rethinking our foreign policy and maybe thinking more about diplomacy instead of using a big stick. That's number one. Number 2 is ending the federal income tax. I call it the slave tax, and there's no way in a free country that the government should have the authority to set a rate that would take everything that you earn. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It makes no sense. And the third issue is dealing with the so-called war on drugs. Now, those 3 issues are areas that the president can have a vast impact on unilaterally.
Great. So let's explore these just a little bit, starting with ending all the wars. You had mentioned drones, and I think you probably by extension drone strikes. So would this be a quick, we're just going to move everybody out, shut down our foreign bases, and bring everybody home, or is it more of a long-term metered approach? What are your thoughts on that?
They start coming home day one. And the reason for that, and the argument as a libertarian I have to make to the American people is this. Our current foreign policy and the use of our troops around the world has historically been based on lies. And the first lie is that this somehow makes us safer. And that simply is not true. So that's the first way that I would approach the American people on why we bring the troops home. Because a lot of people, when you first say that, they might feel a little sheepish about doing it. But one, if you explain them, it's based on lies. For example, the weapons of mass destruction. These are just the recent lies. In Kuwait, that there were babies being pulled out of incubators and thrown on the floor and killed. That was all a lie. And we can go back in history and just talk about it. So we need to get out immediately. Another thing that I would bring to American people is the fact that it's bankrupting our country. I mean, the U.S. is bankrupt right now. There's no easy way to put it. We've gone from the greatest creditor nation in the world to the largest debtor nation in the world, and a lot of that is because of our foreign policy. So those are the type of things on my argument for bringing the troops, the drones home. Another one is this. Just think about it. We're not talking about any foreign soldiers coming over here. But let's just think about, say, local police officers were going door to door in your neighborhood, questioning all the male residents, kicking in the doors, or if you had that connotation of mind that that's the type of thing that we're doing around the world, you would not put up with it. So why would anybody else in these foreign countries want to put up with it? So we're not making friends. Nobody likes a bully, besides maybe the bully themselves and their mother. So, I mean, it's just been a disastrous foreign policy for decades, and it's time that somebody needs to stand up and say this needs to end. And I'm one of those candidates, along with some of the other libertarian candidates. We're all making that argument.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say probably every single libertarian candidate who's come on the show has had foreign policy very high up on their list, ending our wars, bringing people home, operating under the non-aggression policy has definitely been a staple of every single platform so far. Let's talk about the federal income tax, and you call it, the slave tax, which is certainly like a very aggressive term. And I don't disagree with you on it. Let's talk about what that would look like. Is that going to shut down the federal government? Will the government be able to operate? I know these are questions that people are thinking about right now when they hear no more federal income tax.
Well, really, it's changing the model. I mean, the country actually existed probably for over 200 years without a federal income tax. You have to look at the reasons it was implicated. The first time was during the Civil War, and there was money needed to fund war. And then after the passage of the 16th Amendment, it became a useful tool since then to fund all these wars. But the country had been very successful, very prosperous historically without having an income tax. So, my plan is this: repeal the 16th Amendment. Let's go back to before we had it and look at alternative ways to raise revenue. But that also will force the government, whether it's Congress or the state level, to look at what we spend our money on. So, my argument, and I frame it as a slave tax specifically to get a connotation in people's minds of how wrong it is that we even have this, and two, to force the whoever the Democratic nominee is, and possibly President Trump, as far as opponents, to address the issue. And that's, as libertarians, we have to force the issues that we strongly believe in to be addressed or even talked about by these other candidates. And, I would like the other candidates from the other parties to try to persuade the American people that they aren't in favor of ending a slave tax and give their reasons why. But as far as funding the government, I would like to see the end of the federal bureaucracy. Let's address that level of bureaucracy and force it down to the states. And in doing so, each state will there'll be a fighting war on what gets cut out of the budget. Because I'm sure there's some things that New Yorkers do that are one in the budget that Georgians don't. And there's probably some things that New Yorkers want in the budget or don't like that Californians are doing. Let's have the states fight it out about what's truly important. And that way, if we reduce the amount of revenue we need by cutting spending, and then we can come up with various ways on raising revenue. But one thing that the states have to deal with, most states have to balance their budgets. So if we want to balance the federal budget, then let's force the states to take on funding of a lot of the programs that exist in now.
Okay, interesting. So the idea is downsize the federal government, offload the majority of that stuff to the states, and let each state figure out exactly what's important to them and what's not important to them, and let them handle it. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, I mean that puts it very succinctly. For example, why do we need a Department of Transportation? This is just one example, and there's plenty on a federal level. All roads in the country go through a state in a city. So, and most states have their own departments of transportation. So, why do we need that federal level of bureaucracy that really doesn't add much of anything to the situation or issue as far as roads are concerned? Let's get rid of that. So that revenue that's in the gas tax, for example, don't send it to the federal government. Let the states collect a tax from users and apply it to their roads. Why do states, for example, Georgia, why should we send money to D.C. and then ask for that money back to fix our roads? Because we know that with the money comes a bunch of strings attached that are totally unnecessary. So that's just another way that, once again, we can cut that federal spending, and we look at that, throughout the departments. We don't need a Department of Education on the federal level. So let's force it down to the state level and let states deal with it.
Yeah, and this is actually something that we talk about on the show too. And I always ask the question: how many people were educated before we had a Department of Labor? And I know Bob always chimes in and says, "Hey, I can read and write." So
yeah, I mean,
it's totally true.
Yeah, and for example, we were talking about homeschool earlier and talking about education. All 4 of our kids learned to read using this very same book that cost us about $25. And by the time they were 4 years old, they were all reading in advanced grade level. So the fact that we have a system that uses a cookie-cutter approach, how many programs do we need? No Child Left Behind, Rise to the Top. Every few, transitions of power, there's some new program. But when you talk to folks on the local level, they realize how all this bureaucracy does really nothing to the bottom line of educating kids. So let's get rid of that. Let teachers teach. That would be the simple answer, instead of having all this bureaucracy, and give more parents choices. So we need to look at the government, the federal government, in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and let teachers teach. That's I love that. I've heard that one before. All right, guys, we're going to take our half an hour break here. Well, we're not gone for a half an hour, just about 5 minutes. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 W221CL Rochester, FM 95.5 W238DE Spencerport.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Because your future is worth it. MGM Associates Insurance. Proudly serving the region since 1984, MGM can meet your coverage needs, ranging from home, condo, and auto, all the way to specialized policies for business, workers' comp, to limo and taxi insurance, and coverage for tech professionals like IT specialists. They can also help lead you through the confusing maze in the new world of health insurance coverage and options. MGM Associates is large enough to serve you, but small enough to care, so you don't have to wait in line on some 800 number to get prompt personal attention. MGM Associates is the only winner of the National Best Practices Award 5 times in a row. MGM is proud to support veterans groups, including Heroes Home Advantage. For your personal, business, home, or professional insurance needs, put the experience of MGM Associates Insurance on your team. Locally and proudly owned at 1745 Penfield Road in Penfield. 381-7008 or mgminsure.com, an associate of Finger Lakes Fire and Casualty, Route 227 in Trumansburg, New York.
Spring is just around the corner at Victor Chevrolet. For a limited time, lease a 2020 Equinox all-wheel drive LS for just $139 a month. Has convenience package and deep tinted glass in rear and tailgate. MSRP $29,780. Residual $21,143. Requires non-GM lease and household. Or a 2020 Silverado four-wheel drive custom double cab pickup for only $199 a month. Remote start, rear window defogger, trailering package, and 20-inch aluminum wheels. MSRP $42,780. Residual $29,521. Must have current 2015 or newer Silverado or Sierra lease through GM Financial in-household. Lease a thrifty 2020 Trax LS four-wheel drive for only $109 a month. Has tint and cruise package. MSRP $22,790. Residual $14,586. Requires any current lease in-household. These are all 24-month leases. $2,500 cash or trade. First payment, tax, acquisition, and DMV fees are all due at signing. And check this. Victor always has a great selection of terrific pre-owned vehicles, too. Find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor. Visit victorchevrolet.com.
Fratelli's Restaurant offers takeout service Tuesday through Sunday, 2 to 8 p.m. Browse the menu online, fratellisavon.com. Call 346-6160 to place your order. Homemade meals like Grandma used to make. Fratelli's Restaurant, Route 15, Avon.
Congressman Joe Morelli from the 25th District has introduced 9 bills for additional gun control. Do you really want him protecting your freedoms and constitutional rights? We think not. Brought to you by Monroe County Scope. Visit our website.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. Today is White House Wednesday. That is the day of the week where we talk about national issues. We bring in presidential candidates for interview. And today we have John Monds on the phone. And John, I want to know, if you were to be elected as a libertarian, how would you work with Democrats and Republicans in Congress to get things done? You've got some I think, good but aggressive policies, and I think Democrats and Republicans are going to fight you on this. How are you going to make it happen?
Well, one thing, the president has the power of the veto and the power of the pen, and just letting the Democrats and Republicans know that if they propose anti-freedom, anti-liberty legislation like they've been doing historically, that's not going to work under my administration. So, that's the first way. Two, definitely use the bully pulpit of the presidency to speak directly to the American people. Because you say, some of these are very bold ideas. It's a shame that freedom has become a radical ideal in this country. But when you speak directly to the American people and let them know what you'd like to do as president, if the other parties don't get on board, luckily we have elections every 2 years in which it would be time to bring in the fact that we don't have any libertarians in Congress and change that within the first 2 years of my presidency. Go out state to state, stump for candidates that really want to return this country to the people. And I think that would be an effective tool to get them to do things, because we all know what they really want to do is stay in office. So if they have to adopt our policies in order to stay in office, I see them doing that quick, fast, in a hurry. Because you haven't heard of any elected socialist party members in Congress. So you'd have to ask yourself, well, why do we have all these socialist programs? It's because the Socialist Party and their ideology has been sold to the public, and that has allowed the Democrats and Republicans to stay in office. If they find it's popular with the people, they'll implement the programs, just to get in office. So we have to bring a freedom agenda to the public, tell them why, make it personal, that it's in their best interest to be free. And then if the other parties want to steal our ideas to get elected, that's just fine.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that that I think we hear from all the libertarian candidates is like, hey, if I get elected, that's a mandate from the people that they want to see this change. So that's kind of step one. I love the idea of using the bully pulpit to put those issues out there for the American people. And one of the issues right now that people are talking about a lot, especially with coronavirus right now, we can't ignore that's going on. It is happening, whether or not it is as bad as people think it is or not is kind of irrelevant. It's how they're reacting. But it's bringing up the discussion of healthcare, which has been a very long discussion. What do you think, as a libertarian president, you could do to help address not specifically coronavirus, because that's a black hole topic, but more so just healthcare in the United States in general?
Well, I mean, first of all, as a libertarian or any freedom-minded person, I tell people this. Every individual is ultimately responsible for their own life. And when you live in a free society, it comes with great responsibility. So the fact that government should not be in a position to force me or anybody else to take care of somebody else's health care. And that's kind of what the current system is. But when I ran for governor back in 2010, one of the points that I tried to make was this, that you have folks like Sanders talking about health care as a right. But when individuals make their own personal choices that may damage their health care, for example, if somebody smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day and their favorite food is chili cheese fries, and that impacts their health, why should somebody else be responsible for their individual choices? One of the things that my family does is my daughter's a vegan. We primarily are vegetarians in our household, and it's been fortunate for myself that I've been pretty healthy throughout my life. I'm not currently on any medication, so I don't create a personal burden or a burden on society to take care of me. So we have to look at, first of all, people being responsible for their own lives. And also the other argument with the fact is that if you are depending on government for your health or for your life, that is a very bad position to put yourself in. So, the programs that we're dealing with today, first of all, in a free country, they shouldn't have ever been in existence. So we have to look at how do we get out of them? How do we end these programs? And, first you have to have the discussion, and then, with the brightest minds, around the country, we work on solutions together.
Yeah, no, that's great. So things like Obamacare, for example, is that something that you would go to repeal and remove, or are you going to tweak and dial it? Like, these are some of the things people are saying. How would you address that issue?
No, it would have to end. And we have to, people talk about whether it's Medicare and Medicaid, Social Security. All these programs, have had disastrous effects on the country, and they would be eliminated. The discussion is, how do we get out of them? For example, when you talk about Social Security, you have to bring to the American people the facts that, one, it's a Ponzi scheme, and most people can relate, to that, and saying that somebody is going to lose always, and it typically ends disastrously, and that's where it's headed. So how do we get ahead of the game? Republicans and Democrats aren't going to address it. They're going to keep kicking the can down the road. But we need to do things like, one, start ending payroll deductions. There is no lockbox. There is no money coming out of people's check going into some Social Security fund. So once again, based on lies, the fact that it's a bad investment. Most people would probably be better off in retirement if they took their own money out, if they had a match from their employer and stuck the money in a jar or put it under their bed than what they're getting from the government. I mean, it's probably a negative return on money. So, looking at things and making them personal to the American public, saying this is a bad program. It's sinking the country. And there's also no government guarantee. The government can end Social Security at any time, and people don't realize that because they're thinking that the checks are going to come regardless. So we have to approach each of these issues, each one of these departments and programs, and say, how do we get out of this stuff that's very destructive to the everyday American?
There we go. Awesome. So you are listening to John Monds, presidential candidate for the 2020 election. He is a libertarian. We are going to take our last break of the hour. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. Today is White House Wednesday, where we interview presidential candidates, we talk about national issues, and today we have John Monds on the phone, who is running for president in the 2020 election as a libertarian. And towards the end of the segment, we're going to do our lightning round. But before we do that, I do want to ask you, you had mentioned you have the power of the veto as president. What type of things do you anticipate vetoing if elected?
Probably about 95% of whatever Congress proposes. I mean, it's gotten so ridiculous that, they don't adhere to the Constitution. And the Constitution in itself, I look at as a starting point. You know, it shouldn't have been the end all, the be all. But it was a good basis for us to start off at. And they're totally ignoring that already. And that's what's gotten us in the position that we are right now. So, it's hard to see the other parties implementing or even suggesting liberty and freedom-minded legislation at all. So, I think I'd probably run out of ink pretty quickly when it comes to the things that I'd veto.
No, I like that a lot. You're gonna run out of ink because there's so much that you gotta veto. That's that should maybe be the campaign slogan. I don't know. That's pretty good. So okay, great. So let's roll into a couple of lightning round questions here. Just real quick, 1 to 2 sentence answers on these. Would you support or are you thinking about the elimination of Social Security?
Yes. And like I mentioned earlier, it's bad for the American public. It's not very social. It's not very secure. And, freedom works. Government, has no business in the retirement field anyway.
And would you support term limits for Congress?
Well, they are already term limited in my mind. Like right now, coming up in November, we could throw all the bums out that need to be thrown out. It's just the American, the voting public, having a reason to come out to vote. I think over 60% of eligible voters don't vote. That's how bad the system has become. So if we give them a reason to come out, I think, Congress is already term limited. So what's the president?
All right. What about, do we need the Department of Education? I think I know what your answer is going to be on this one.
Oh, yeah, these are easy. I mean, these are underhand, softballs. No, we don't. I mean, and that's clear also. If you, like you mentioned earlier, if you go back to before there was even compulsory public schooling, the country did very well educating its citizens. And primarily the ones that didn't get educated was because of the government.
All right, so let me give you a harder one since these ones are so easy. Hey, here's a hard one. It's a personal favorite. Camaro or Corvette?
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to say Camaro because that was really the first car I had growing up when I turned 16.
There you go. There you go. How about the federal election holiday? Should voting day for federal elections be a federal holiday?
I haven't given much thought to that, but first of all, government shouldn't be interrupting businesses, um, telling who can work and who can't work. So, I would say no. Just get out of the employment, in the marketplace as far as employment and telling folks when they have holidays and not.
All right. Who's your favorite person in history?
Ooh, wow.
Told you they'd get harder.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Well, I do a lot of genealogy on my family, and I've been doing it for years. And I would have to defer to uh, those who made it possible for me to be here. And my inspiration for running was my great great grandparents who were enslaved in Georgia, and that's Columbus and Mourning Ferguson. Um, I have so much utmost respect for them and indebted for their existence because without them I wouldn't be here.
Oh, that's a pretty good one. I don't think anybody has mentioned like a family member or something like that. So that's good. Um, how about should we be banning the Fed here in the U.S.? And by the Fed, I mean the Federal Reserve.
We should eliminate the Federal Reserve. I mean, we have to look at their track record. They have destroyed the dollar. Um, in previous debates, I've talked about if you take a silver eagle and compare it to a Federal Reserve note, the silver eagle here in Georgia can get you about $10 worth of gas. That Federal Reserve note won't even get you a half a gallon. And that's how bad the Fed has been as far as destroying the economy, destroying the middle class, and indebting the nation to where we're at the brink of dropping off the cliff as far as financially. So get rid of the Fed, absolutely.
All right. Are there any moral wars?
Well, you have to look at when you talk about defending yourself. That's just like if somebody was threatening you personally. Um, self-defense is moral, but we've gotten out of self-defense and went on offense, and that is not moral. So if we were to be attacked, yes, the response should be, overwhelming. As a libertarian, I'm not a pacifist as far as saying that, we should never fight or ever defend ourselves, turn the other cheek. That's not what we're talking about.
And these next few questions might be a little harder here. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I've had it, and I don't like it. But hey, my kids enjoy it. That's one of their favorite toppings. So let the individual decide.
There you go. And is it soda or is it pop?
Well, I lived in the North and I've lived in the South. So it's soda pop. It's a little bit of both.
There you go. Soda pop. Now, I do have one of our listeners commented in on YouTube, and he said he would love to see a Hornberger Monds ticket. And he's referring to Jacob Hornberger, who is also running. Is that something you guys have talked about, discussed, or would consider?
Well, my thing has always been what's best for the party, what's best for the country. So if it's Hornberger Monds Hornberger, or I like a lot of the other candidates, whatever the party believes is the best tandem, then I'm definitely open to it. Even there's a few folks running on the vice presidential office. If they emerge as strong candidates, I remain open to any option that's on the table.
There you go. All right, so we're almost at the end of the show here. I want to give you a chance to let people who are listening know, if they're interested in your message, maybe they want to help out your campaign. What's the best way for them to get involved and help you out?
Well, they can go to Monds2020.com. That's the website. Vote Monds on Facebook. Reach out, and I encourage them to do so. Also, if they're interested in freedom and freedom agenda, they should check out the Libertarian Party of New York and the National Libertarian Party at lp.org.
Great, awesome. So give us the web addresses one more time, and can they find you on social media anywhere as well?
Yes. Monds2020.com on the web and votemonds.com on Facebook. Those are the main two right there.
Awesome, very good. And anything else you want to leave them with before we close up the show here today?
Well, one thing that I didn't get to go into detail is looking at ending the drug war and the fact that there's over 81,000 people incarcerated in federal prisons that are nonviolent, victimless crimes, and that's a travesty. You look at the fact that with more decriminalization going across the nation, the government now making money off of what is so-called illegal drugs, that these people should not be held in cages. And it's a shame that President Trump and the previous presidents have been pardoning or commuting sentences for many people that have financial connections. As president, I will look at all 81,000 cases and also those on parole and probation, and look at, making these people whole again.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you so much, guys. You're listening to John Monds. He's running for president in the 2020 election. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow.